It is what is happening everywhere, and there is need to call attention. Mr. Tope Adeniran from Ogun State, you're welcome, sir. Yes, yeah. Let me share to see. It is what is happening everywhere, and there is need to call attention. Mr. Tope Adeniran from Ogun State, you're welcome, sir. Where is it? Yes. Sorry, yeah. I can't find it. I can't find it. See, it is what is happening everywhere. Oh. And they need to call attention. Mr. Tope Adeniran from Ogun State, you're welcome, sir. Where is it? Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to. Is it from another app? No, this is same one. Why is it not showing? Okay, I said. Okay. I think you are good now. All right, sorry for that. Please kindly confirm that you can see my screen loud. You can hear me loud and clear, and you can see my screen clearly. Please just put it in the comment section. Let me be sure that you can. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, perfect, perfect, perfect. Today, we'll be having another wonderful enlightenment session. And this particular topic of discourse is highly crucial because everyone is vulnerable. Because this can affect every single person. Suicide. What are the causes of suicide? What are the symptoms? What are the facts and myths about suicide? And what are the possible solutions to eliminate the various types of suicide? How do you address the issue of suicide? Suicide is the extreme case of mental health condition, mental distress. And people find it funny, especially in this part of the world, where people can just decide to take their own life. There is a whole lot of psychological interpretation for a suicide or suicidal attempt. There is a whole lot of underneath series of events happening simultaneously within the life, within the heart, mind, body, soul, spirit of the person who decides to commit suicide. And this is what we'll be dissecting today. And I want us to pay attention not only to individuals that are here, but to also pay attention to those that are not here, your family members, your neighbors, your colleagues at work. It's overall responsibility. In the health and safety industry, before now, we focus on physical safety, like occupational health and safety, process safety. When it comes to health, we focus on medical illnesses. We focus on this part and we ignore the part that is even much more crucial and much more fundamental to the life of humans, which is the mental well-being. And today, we'll be having this very important topic, this very important discussion. If you have those that have not joined, and you think that this will be beneficial to them, I will advise that you advise them to be a part of this wonderful session. It's another wonderful enlightenment session with us, and we appreciate you for being a part and joining us today. We'll be covering some aspects of suicide using the few period that we have to discuss about this. We'll be talking about, we'll start by talking about suicide and type of suicidal behaviors, myth and fact about suicide, immediate danger signs and suicide intent. Then we'll have to talk about mental health first aid. Because when it comes to suicide or any other form of end result of lack of proper health and safety practice, which also include mental health, then we have to talk about preventive actions. Because like we used to say, prevention is always better than cure, even when it comes to physical injuries, even when it comes to physical incidences. We look towards prevention rather than looking for how to cure, because that is always the best way to go about it. Prevention. And mental health first aid provides that framework, not only for individuals, but mainly for a group. A group can be a family, a group can be a workplace, a group can be your neighborhood. Mental health first aid is one of those aspects, one of those tools that is very important in addressing mental health issues, especially when it comes to the escalation of psychological trauma that comes with various series of events that could lead to people accumulating stressors that graduates till it gets to a stage of suicide. Please, anyone that is there, please always try to mute. Please always ensure that you are muted. Today is going to be wonderful. Please kindly mute. Engineer, I've muted you. You are muting again. I'm gonna have to take you again. I'm gonna have to take you to the waiting room. Please, let's stay muted so that we enjoy this session. Please, let's stay muted at all times. So today is about suicide, and it's a very important aspect of mental well-being. Like I said the other time, when we talk about physical well-being, we're talking about occupational health and safety, process safety. We carry out risk assessment. We carry out job and analysis. We issue permit to work. We carry out inspections. We do a whole lot of things to prevent physical injuries. But we ignore the aspects of mental distress, mental injury, psychological trauma. Not only until recent times that we have a guideline, because even originally when it comes to the ISO standard, ISO 45001, there was no direct mention of mental health, but though it is part of what you should do as a management, what you should do when it comes to your clause 6.1, that is action to address risk and opportunities. Those risks that you identify from your clause 4.1 when you talk about context of organizations, and your 4.2 that talks about needs and expectations of interested parties, which include your workers, and their mental well-being should be included. Apart from that, there was a need to include psychosocial risk, which gave rise to ISO 45003 to address psychosocial issues, because I've been seeing that this is also a very important aspect that needs direct attention. And that particular action is similar to what we have recently now when it comes to ISO standard, that there is need to factor climate change. Whether you're talking about 9001, 14001, even though ideally in 14001 it should address climate change directly because it has to do with environmental. But now, if you are talking about 4 clause 4 clause 5 clause 6, when you are identifying your risk, you must consider climate change because of the need now. So that is similar to what happened then. Because of the need to factor issue of psychosocial risk, which mental health and well-being, it becomes part of it, it gave rise to ISO 5003. And what many people don't even know, that if you look at our Workers' Compensation Act by NSITF, yes, we have an act, Workers' Compensation Act. It talks directly about mental well-being. When you look at, I think, under section 31 or so, directly talks about mental health, ensuring taking care of the mental health of workers. Workers are eligible for leave when they have a kind of psychological mental health issue. But the awareness is very poor, and it's even absurd. It will look absurd, let me put it that way. It will look absurd when you wake up one day and say that, my Oga, please, I can't come to work today. I'm having mental health issue. It will tell you it's like you don't want to resume work. Because of the awareness is very poor, and we do not see the importance. And the very important and very truthful part is that mental health issue is even much more dangerous than physical health and well-being. It's more dangerous to the individual and to the society at large. Because the end result of what we see is suicide. But what other things happens before we get to the stage of suicide? People react to mental distress in various ways. People react to mental distress with drug abuse, substance use, which is another topic entirely. Because when it comes to drug abuse, when it comes to substance use, it affects the society. People start depending on drugs before they can function properly, and it attacks the youth. And the youth are the power of a nation. And when most of the youth start drinking, start taking hard substances, and becomes useless, then there is tendency that there will not be continuous growth in that society. It affects the individuals too. They are unable to be productive. They are unable to work at a very productive level because of mental health distress. I want to ask you a very simple question. If you are following me, if you are with me, please kindly type yes in the chat room. If you are with me, please, I want you to type yes in the chat room. We don't want a whole lot of people to be here. We don't want 50, 100. If it's only 10 people that are here and are ready to follow us in this discussion, and we are very much okay with it. Value addition is what is very important. The truth is that people don't value things that comes free. But when it comes with an amount of money, they value it more. But we will not look at that. We will continue to dish out things free of charge. We know how much we charge to deliver trainings on mental health. I know. At least the least I've charged so far for mental health training per employee, per worker is 100,000 naira for any organization. And these are part of the topics that we deliver. This is straight from my slides, from our slides. So please pay rapt attention. You can develop your own content from what I'm going to talk today. I want to ask you a question. If Mr. Kasali, or let me look at, okay, let me use someone's names here. If Mr. Kasali falls down from height, falls down from two-story building, please, who suffers the physical injury? I want somebody to answer me. If Mr. Kasali falls down from two-story building or was involved in an accident, who suffers the physical pain? Who goes through the physical pain? Mr. Kasali. Thank you, Ms. Rhoda. Thank you, Ms. Rhoda. Mr. Kasali. Any other response? Who got Mr. Kasali? Thank you, Mr. Kasali. Thank you. Now, who are those that go through the mental pain? Who are those that go through the mental pain? The family, thank you. The family, number one. The family and friends, thank you. The neighbors, the colleagues. Thank you. The family, the organization, the society. You will see that the physical pain is only being affected by one person. But the mental distress that comes into it affects others. Others will be unable to work properly, to be productive at work, because their father, their son, or their sibling, or their friend is undergoing some psychological pain, some physical pain, and is unable to function properly. That is an example to tell you how deep mental health goes into productivity. That is why it's very important for us to be able to address mental health issues. Thank you, Mr. Sonny Vargasted. Direct and indirect call. Thank you. That is why it's very important for us to understand, to go through the discourse of mental health. But today, we are not bringing everything into discussion. We are only focusing on suicide, which is one of the last resorts, because people undergo, like I said, they undergo response to extreme psychological distress in various means. And there are different types of psychological distress. There are some that are accumulated. We call it chronic effects. And we have some that are acute, that happens immediately, like sudden bad news, sudden negative news, that trauma, that strike that happens, that response that happens immediately when there is a sudden response to a negative news or sudden negative event. While the chronic is the accumulation of stressors from various activities of our lives. We go to work every day, morning, afternoon, stress, traffic, stress. You need to meet up with daily demands, financial responsibilities. Stressors comes into play. Stressors comes from different aspects of life. Stressor is not only when you walk from Mile 2 to Ikorodu. Stressor is not only when you carry load from upstairs to downstairs. Stressors comes from daily life challenges. You need to close out a project. There's a stress that comes with it. There's a psychological stress that comes with it. You feel tired, and you ask yourself, what do I even do that I'm tired like this? These are symptoms of mental distress. It comes from wanting to meet financial needs. You are trying to when your available resources, what you have, your capacity, mentally, physically, money-wise, every otherwise, is not enough to address the challenges, then you try to apply coping technique. Today, we will not talk about coping techniques. In one of our free trainings, we talk about stress management and coping techniques. You can go to our YouTube channel to watch that. But what we're talking about now is that accumulation of stress, because at the end of the day, you want to cope with it. But by the time you are unable to cope with that stress, you are unable to you are unable to cope with it. You are unable, your resources cannot address that particular challenge. It can be money, mostly financial, especially in this part of the world. It can be family issue. It can be the loss of a friend. When you're unable to cope with the fact that you just lost your friend or your family member, there's a kind of response that you want to try to cope with it. That is where what we call behavioral defense mechanism comes into play. We're not going to talk about that today. That is another topic entirely. Behavioral defense mechanism. All this that I'm talking about is in our book that I wrote this year, that I launched this year, January, The Workplace. They start applying various coping techniques to meet up with those life challenges. Then you start applying behavioral defense mechanisms, and there are a lot of them. There are different types of defense mechanisms that people apply: repression, regression, denial of reality, repression, various means. There are different types of defense mechanisms. It becomes part of people's life, and there are some that are negative. There are some that are positive. People, because they want to cope with the situation, they apply negative coping techniques. And one of those negative coping techniques is trying to commit suicide. One of those negative coping techniques is substance abuse, using drugs just to get over those trauma. And that all this negative approach does not address the issue. Like I said, we talk about coping techniques and stress management in one of our videos on our YouTube channel. You can go and watch them for free. But if you want us to train your organization fully on this wonderful topic, you can reach out to us. So today is about suicide. We need to talk about suicide. It's very, very important because this is one of the end results. Let me break it down. I'll be talking about stressors. When there are a lot of stressors that come with life, just like you are blowing a balloon. Let's assume that any little challenge you blow air into a balloon. What happens? It keeps expanding. You keep blowing, you keep blowing, you keep blowing, you keep blowing the balloon. That is accumulation of stressors from different things that are happening around us. And you are unable to address it. You are unable to create a vent to be able to relieve the pressure, and it keeps blowing. It keeps blowing. It will get to a stage that it is only a little pinch, a little application of air that will lead to the explosion of the balloon. But people will focus on that last air and refuse to address it from the root of so much accumulation. So when you accumulate stress up to a particular point in time, you graduate to a stage what we call anxiety. From stressor, it moves to anxiety. You start getting anxious. Little things start getting you scared. You don't understand. Any small thing you are scared. It's not enough to do you are scared. It graduates to a stage of burnout. You resume work, just 1 or 2 hours, you're already tired. You are burnt out. You don't seem to see what is happening around you. You are not getting clarity about your work. Everything is becoming clouded. You just know that you go to work, you do something, you get home, you eat, you sleep. There is no work-life balance. You're not enjoying your life. You're getting burnt out. Then from there, it graduates. In that burnout, that stage of burnout includes anger issue. It includes anxiety. From there, it graduates to depression. From depression, that is a stage where that requires immediate address to address that mental health issue. Depressed, you become depressed. You are not enjoying life anymore. Things are not the same. And the funny thing is that everybody thinks they are depressed. Though there are many facts, there are many sides to depression. For example, when I was in a training, we were trying to let them understand that not every time that people think that they are depressed is that they are depressed. Depression is a word that they use jokingly. Depression is not a joke. If you know what depression is, you won't pray to be depressed. Because that is the knock to suicide. So this particular day, we were having that argument. And a woman came to the rescue. You know, when you are training directors, when you are training directors, principal managers, you are training people that have 3 PhDs, 4 PhDs, people that are above you in every rank, but because of your own subject matter, they need to listen to you. But sometimes they argue, they deliberate, and you need to be at the top of your game. So the woman came to my rescue and said that she had similar experience, that she went to meet a consultant, a psychologist, and told the psychologist that she was feeling depressed. The woman said, "No, you are not depressed." The woman said, "Are you pretending with your makeup?" He said, "No, that she's not pretending." He said, "No, you're not depressed because you are coming to me for counseling that you are depressed and you're on makeup." Though there are people that deliberately use makeup to hide their tears, to hide the secret. But this man said she wasn't doing that. He said, so you have the time to do your hair, because she said her mother just died then. So she wasn't herself. So your mother just died, and you feel that you are at the stage of suicide. But you are here with makeup, looking beautiful. You comb your hair, you apply makeup, you wear a good dress, you apply perfume, you dress well, you pick the right clothes for your bag, for your shoe. You did all these things, and you are depressed. If you are not yet depressed, unless you are pretending. She said that she wasn't pretend that that's how she has been. So they said that no, you are not depressed, you are only burnt out. Because depression is not a joke. Someone who is depressed, there is a whole lot of changes that we are going to discuss here. But we use the word depression, I'm depressed, Daddy, I'm depressed. But we'll talk about this today. We are focusing on suicide. So from depression, in that stage of depression also include hard drugs use. Some people, when they are depressed or at that particular stage, they are either depressed or they are using hard substances. They are using drugs, codeine, Refnol, smoking every day, taking alcohol, hard drugs, just because they want to get over that stage. Then from that stage, when that is not addressed, when depression is not addressed, then it leads to suicide. When hard drugs is not addressed, it leads to psychotic disorder, which we call, we the Oyinbos, we like to use good words for something. Madness, but we call it psychotic disorder. It returns to madness, or it turns to suicide, or other underlying medical issues, or a combination of all. Underlying medical issue. Because some people will take up drugs. There's what we call psychological dependence. We'll not talk about it today. It's not part of our topic today. If you want to know more about that, like I said, my book is available for you. But today, let's focus on suicide. Let's break suicide into pieces. So people will respond in different ways. Some people will run mad. There's this particular woman, I'm going to mention her name because she actually told that story herself live on Facebook. She's very popular for some of us that follow her. Mewolaka, they call her Mewolaka, MEWO, I think LAKA. She's a social media influencer, very popular woman. She was talking about her journey, and she explained how she almost get into the market. Like when they say Orioloja, that she has already gotten loose, that it was someone that knew him that rescued him, that she didn't know anything again. She just left the home, left her house, and started walking. Someone that doesn't walk, someone that has a car that drives every day, just left the house that baby at her back and was walking and was just going. So someone that now said that, it is not Mewolaka. Then that person rescued. The person was calling her name, but she was not responding. She was just walking. Something is happening. And that was as a result of what she was going through at that point in time in her husband's house, then based on that story. So what am I saying here? People respond to stressors, family issues, relationship issues. People commit suicide because of relationship. There was a guy then that was the president of MASCOM then when I was in school then. I think during NDO, she was the president of MASCOM. Then later I saw it in the news. This same guy, many years later, after we graduated, that this guy did a video of himself committing suicide, taking Gamalin 20 because of relationship, because of a woman. And ladies who have committed suicide because of a man, because of love. So many things accumulate to lead to suicide. And that is what we are going to talk about today. What are those symptoms? What are those things that we need to look into? What are those things that we need to be observant enough? During my training and after my training, people have given testimony and also talk about how they have rescued their colleagues by being observant under mental health first aid, by being observant of their colleagues due to changes in the lifestyle. The symptoms, you need to be able to recognize it. Not only go to work to address physical injury, doing inspection and observation, especially most of our safety officers. Understand the needs and expectations of your interested parties, of your workers, which also include their mental well-being. Very, very important. Now let's go ahead. If you are with me, please type yes in the chat room. If you are with me, type yes in the chat room. If you are with me, type yes in the chat room. If you are following me, type yes. Let me see the yes flowing in the chat room. If you are with me, let me see your yes in the chat room. Okay, we are flowing. We are flowing. That's good. Beautiful. Who is going to respond to this? Anyone, just one person or two. Use a word or describe. You might not use a word. Describe your happiest day you can ever remember now. Anyone, just raise up your hand. Or others who can type. You can type your own happiest day in the chat room. You can type your own happiest day in the chat room. You can type your own happiest day. If you want to speak, you can raise up your hand. Let us, oh, beautiful, your graduation day. Wow. Mr. Jeremiah from Malawi. Any other person? There are a lot of happiest moments in our lives. Which one can you remember now? Drop it in the chat room. Let us discuss. Let us discuss. When I had my first child, beautiful, safely, beautiful. That's good. Alhamdulillah. That's beautiful. All praises to God. Safely, I love that word, safely. It's not always funny. And that is for women, especially. They used to have a whole lot of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, especially from childbirth. Any other person, we are 24 now. We should have a whole lot of happiest moments in our lives. When I got married was a milestone. I really understand what I mean. That's beautiful, Mr. Joseph. The day I had my first job, wow, beautiful, beautiful. That's good. Most times in our training sessions, we used to hear mostly convocation, graduation with an MSc, beautiful. When I had my first job, beautiful. There are a lot of happy moments in our lives. There's no way there will be one happy moment in our life, at least one. And this is where our training starts from. Many of us focus more on the sad moments and refuse to remember those happy moments. And that is one of the first stage to counseling. This is a free gift. That is one of the first stage to look at when you are counseling somebody about their mental well-being. Tell them to remember the happiest days. 15, let them write 10, let them write 5. The happy things they can remember that happened to them. Let them reflect on it. It is psychological in mind. It is psychological. Because there's a principle of thought, feeling, and action. TFA. I want somebody to write TFA in the chat room. When I was able to give out shelter to a friend. Oh, beautiful. I love this, Mr. Akiyemi. Now, I want somebody to write TFA in the chat room. I want somebody to write TFA in the chat room. TFA, TFA. In my class, we always engage and ensure that people write something down. TFA. TFA, yes. Thought, feeling, and action. Your thought, feeling, and action. Many people get sunk. They sink themselves into depression, into anxiety, into suicidal attempt because of they continuously invest their time in negative thought about their lives. Yes, it can be challenging, but it can only get better. When I was doing my training about coping techniques, we talk about emotion-focused strategy and problem-focused strategy. All these are also in my book. Emotion-focused and problem-focused. When you are able to address the two, there will be clarity in your vision. Everybody has the tendency to have clarity in their vision. People are clouded with negative thought and they are unable to think clearly about their life. And they continue to sink into that problem, into their challenges because they fail to understand the two strategy, emotion-focused strategy and problem-focused strategy. What is problem-focused strategy? I will give you for free because today is about suicide. But let me just say this. Problem-focused strategy is applying a strategy that addresses the problem. In safety, we talk about risk-based approach. Identifying the risk, those that will be armed, the level of risk, in the control, evaluating the control, and improving all those stuff. That is risk-based approach. Looking at your challenges, what are the challenges that you have? How is it affecting you? How can you address it? What can you do to address it? Break it down into smaller steps. People want to achieve a whole lot within a short period of time. Have an eagle-eye view. Break down your tasks into pieces. Break down your daily activities, your weekly activities, your yearly activities into pieces, and attend to them strategically. Apply problem-focused strategy using risk-based approach. There's another very common one that we used to use, especially in ISO. We call it problem-focused. We call it process-based approach, the PDCA. Plan your life, plan your activities, plan what you want to achieve, do it, check it, and evaluate your improvement. This is problem-focused strategy. Then emotion-focused strategy is addressing the emotional aspect of your feeling. Because you are going to feel in a particular way when you are going through challenges. How do you address this on a daily basis? How do you try to adapt yourself to the emotions that comes with your thoughts, that comes with your activities? Because if you don't address your emotion will take control over you. And most times it goes toward the negative lane. And that is why you need to apply emotion-focused strategy. That is why you need to apply emotion-focused strategy to address the emotional aspect of whatever you are going through. So we have the TFA, your thoughts. You must try to tell people to have positive thoughts. If you are negative, if you feel negative, if you are having negative thoughts, change it to positivity. Feeling, because the way you think becomes what you feel about that thing. If that is why they say that anything that comes into all our entries into our body must be well controlled. What you eat must be well controlled. What you listen to must be controlled. What you listen to must be controlled because your thought becomes what you feel about that thing, and how you feel about something becomes how you act about it, how you act towards it. So your TFP must be well addressed. Your thought, your feeling, and your actions must be positive. That is one of those ways to improve on ourselves. Positivity. When you want to counsel, you want to talk about people who are going through tough times, tell them to tell you the happiest day, things that are happy, that they're happy about all through their life till that particular moment. There's always something positive that they want to share with you. And on that basis, you can use it to address them. Today, we are talking about suicide, and we are just starting the class. These are what we'll be talking about, like I've mentioned the other time. Identifying the signs and symptoms of suicidal behaviors, describe conditions that are likely to cause suicide. What are those things that could lead to suicide? Distinguish between myths and facts. There are many myths about suicide, and there are facts about it. Identify circumstances which aid in the identification of potential suicide victims. Explain some immediate danger signs. What are those things that you need to look out for when it comes to issue of suicide? How do you address those things that you need to look out for? These are very, very important. Then explain some immediate danger signs of suicide intent and identify the method of managing a potential suicide victim, which is applying the TFA, the mental health first aid. Now, this is the statistics. You know, in Nigeria, we are still very low on even basic statistics, not to talk of mental health. A leading cause of most of the death, in fact, among the youth between the age of 15 to 29, a fourth leading cause of death in people is suicide. Between people between the age of 15 to 29, the fourth cause of death, leading cause of death, is suicide. Even in the US alone, between 2000 and 2021, they had increased rate of suicide up 36% in the US alone. Suicide is not a joke. A leading cause of death in most Western countries. About 200,000 people in the United States attempt suicide each year. They attempt suicide because there are different stages of suicide. There are suicidal attempts too. That is the suicidal behaviors that comes, the types that comes. 26,000 of them die every year from suicide alone. Very common among working age, and this is the growing problem. Suicide is what we call intentionally taking someone's life. Especially in this era when it has been seems to be very easy. You know, they are doing technology to ease the pain of those that want to commit suicide. It's very pathetic that while we are trying to eradicate the issue of suicide, some are investing so much in making suicide easy for people to go through, instead of addressing the cause of suicide. Men of working age between these have largest mental health problem, public health burden due to suicide. If you combine the effects of HIV, homicide, diabetes, or stroke, if you combine the effects within this working age of men, it is not up to what people are going through when it comes to this mental health issue. We have, moving forward, we have different kind of suicide. Like I said, we have their threats. People start making statements. You would think it's a joke that I'm tired, I want to commit suicide. This Nigeria, I'm tired. It's like I'm going to take my life. By the time you start seeing people saying such, suicidal threats, start taking action, start informing people, start taking that person for counseling, because that is the first stage. Suicidal threats, they start threatening that they will commit suicide. They start planning their will. They start talking about how people should take care of their pets. They start relating with people that they are going because they are tired. Then another type is suicide attempt. When people attempt to commit suicide, they plan, they prepare, and they attempt that suicide. They attempt that suicide. They attempt that suicide. These are suicidal behavior that you will see. They attempt to commit suicide. And sometimes there's what we call non-suicidal self-injury, NSSI, where someone deliberately hurt himself, not because he wants to commit suicide, but because he wants to gain attention. It can be serious and it can also lead to death. But the intention is the person is trying to experience psychological pain, because there's a belief that psychological pain, there's a belief that physical pain will always drown out psychological pain. Physical pain will make you not to have psychological pain. Based on that principle, they try to inflict themselves to physical pain when they are going through psychological trauma. Because at that point in time, it's not always easy, I must tell you. It is not always easy. Psychological distress, mental health distress from challenges is not always funny. So people, when they have gotten to this extreme stage, pass through stressors, pass through burnout, pass through depressive states, and they apply this method because they are tired of going through that mental pain. So they believe that when they go through physical pain, people will pity them. People will they will gain the attention of people because they need help. It's like crying in a vacuum. They need help, but they don't know how to go about it. They are crying for help, but they believe that people don't understand them. So there's a whole lot of complex thoughts going on all over their head. That is why you need to understand them. Don't just say, why are you coming? The guy is a fool. The guy is a coward. Why are you coming? I've seen people say all these things. It's not as easy as you think. May we not be a victim of depression. Real depression, I'm not talking about those that are born out and say they are depressed. Real depression, we will not be a victim. It's not always funny at all. So these are the stages. Then the final one is completed suicide, when people actually commit suicide. In between this, that is not here, what is also in my book, is the type of suicide. We have altruistic suicide. This is some people, they believe that some people they believe that when they commit suicide, they are doing it for the cause of others. Please, I want us to stay muted, Mr. Akiyemi. They believe that when they commit suicide, this is motivated by obligation. They believe that they must take their life for the cause of something to progress. Just like few weeks ago, if not 2 weeks ago, with the issue of Palestinian genocide that's happening, an army, I think a US army, a young guy went to the embassy, I think the Israeli embassy, and burned himself alive. That is suicide. But he believes that for people to gain that freedom, for the people of Palestine to gain that freedom, he has that psychological mindset that he needs to take his own life for the cause of that particular progress. That is altruistic suicide. We have anomic suicide. When people are frustrated, please kindly stay muted. Mr. Akiyemi, please stay muted. Mr. Akiyemi, if you are with us, you stay muted, please. We have anomic suicide. This is motivated by lack of social regulation during extreme stress and frustration. Exactly when what we are going through now, especially in this part of the world. Some people have committed suicide because they can't cope with the condition. There's another one that we call fatalistic suicide. This is motivated by lack of sense of the individual. The individual is kept under close watch. The person believes that he is being is not in control of his life, maybe someone that was in prison, or someone that has been in close watch and is not in control of his life, they commit suicide. And you also see this happen to celebrities. But now I think they've been able to manage it. There was a time that celebrities were committing suicide because they couldn't have control of their own life again. It's not about prison. It's not about imprisoning them. There's some lifestyle that you enjoy if you're not a celebrity. Someone like me can walk around freely. But a celebrity, they need to control where they go to, what they do, what they post, everything. So at a point in time, some of them were committing suicide because they felt like they were not in control of their life. Many of them have shared stories of them not being in control of their life, and it's affecting them mentally. And many of them commit suicide. You've seen those cases very well when it comes to celebrities. Then you have egoistic suicide. This is motivated by lack of social integration. Usually, individuals who see themselves as outcasts or outsiders in society are victims of this kind of suicide. That is why we talk about inclusion. That is why we talk about inclusion. People must feel that they are included, must have that feeling. Don't separate, don't segregate. That is why in organizations, they address issue of hostility. Hostility and violence in the workplace is a topic on its own under mental well-being that we have delivered to organizations. It's a topic on its own. Because hostility is a very dangerous aspect. That is why there must be policies that address hostility. Everybody must be included. There must be that inclusiveness. Unless people will commit suicide. Not because someone is in a different race or looks different and you try to separate them. It affects them mentally. It affects them mentally, and that can lead to suicide. I've talked about this type of suicidal behaviors. Now, what are the various causes of suicide? The most common one is depression, because it's from depression that you get to suicide. But some things also cause depression, which is a topic on its own, but I've mentioned them. I've talked about burnout, which is majorly because burnout graduates to depression. The burnout is a junior brother. Depression is a senior brother. Just like you have hostility and violence. One is the junior brother, one is the senior brother. And hostile environment can lead to violence. Depression, feeling of sadness, when people feel down, they are not enjoying their work. And that's an accumulation of so many things happening. So many, their work, maybe they are not being appreciated for their work, or they are doing a whole lot, but they are seeing little results. Feeling of sadness, despair, and discouragement describe depression. Depression may be disruptive to the individual. It can affect the individual and break them down into pieces. It can cause decreased ability to think. That person, I talk about risk-based approach the other time when it comes to coping techniques. When we're talking about problem focus and emotion focus, you need to clear your thoughts. When you're clouded, when you feel clouded, sometimes you walk, and you're tired and you're not getting clarity, then you know that you need to pause, relax, apply emotion focus, do exercise, do something to, at that point in time, address it. Decrease ability to think, diminish physical ability, they become weak and tired. Guilt, they start having a sense of guilt that they are the cause of everything. And when we talk about this, people don't understand. Until recently, I think some months ago, there was a video about a boy. I think the boy is autistic or something, because they also display these random symptoms of what mental health issue can cause. And this boy was blaming himself. His parents were doing a video of him. This boy was blaming himself for everything. This boy was blaming himself for someone else. Someone was putting on, I think, a pink cloth. I think his mom was putting on a pink cloth, and he was blaming himself for his mom putting on a pink cloth. That is at the extreme stage. That is extreme. That is extreme. They blame themselves for everything. But at this stage of depression, people can blame themselves for what is not their cause. They start having self-guilt, self-condemnation. They start condemning themselves. I'm not good. I'm worse. I can't achieve anything. They start having those negative thoughts. They start feeling hopeless. Depression is not a good thing at all. At that point, they are already making stages. They are already planning to commit suicide. Depression is not a joke. Then you have hopelessness, disorder in eating, and sleeping disorder. So many symptoms that you will see. And under depression, there's what we call endothermic and exothermic. We won't talk about that today, because that's also very important. Suicidal attempts. When we're talking about suicidal attempts, you say personal loss as a possible cause of suicide. Part of the reason why people want to commit suicide is because maybe they lost their child, or their spouse, or their parent, or their brother, or a pet. You've seen people, mostly in the western part of the world, that they commit suicide because they lost their dog or their cat. Because of that closeness. Losing a friend, losing a sister, people can go into suicide because of that. Ending of close personal relationship or difficulty with the relationship. People have committed suicide as a result of this relationship issue. Because of breakup, heartbreak. Heartbreak is not a joke. Hey, God. Heartbreak. Heartbreak is not something you can joke with. There's a great deal of misinformation, so we need to understand what are those things that could lead to suicide. But notwithstanding, we need to also break down the myths and facts about suicide, because there are so many myths that are not true. And we're going to talk about what is the real fact about suicide. Myths and facts about suicide. Number one, suicidal people are actually mentally ill. This is how people say they are mentally ill. But based on studies, many suicidal notes reveal that the suicidal person is deliberately unhappy, but that is not necessarily mentally ill. It's not that maybe they are having mental, when we talk about mental illness here, you are talking about medical related. Maybe the person focal cortex didn't grow well, or some other medical related issue. No, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about people that are autistic or something. No. People who are normal, just like you and I, can also commit suicide. And they commit suicide, we've seen it very well. Because many of them that write their suicidal notes, it means that they're desperately unhappy. The recent one that happened is it Providence Bank? Is it Providence? I think it's Providence Bank. The recent one that happened in Providence Bank, that the lady committed suicide even in the workplace. In the workplace. Such issue in developed countries should not be attended with joke. But look at it. It went down the drain. We're not hearing anything about it again. And that's the society that we live in, because we are even addressing much more. People believe that there are much more important issues to address. They are deliberately unhappy, and not necessarily that they are mentally ill. They are just extremely unhappy. They write down all what they are going through, everything. They are not happy. They know what they are doing. They have their thoughts there. They know. That's why they are able to write down what is it. Many of them write down suicidal notes. Why? Because of what we said the other time. They want to seek attention. They want people to attend to them. They are shouting, but they feel that they are shouting, but it's like an empty vacuum. When you are shouting in an empty vacuum, and the other person is not hearing you, but your mouth is moving, that you are shouting. And they feel like nobody is ready to attend to them. But meanwhile, nobody is seeing them. That is why the awareness must be there. For us to see them, close that bridge. Number two, people who talk about suicide don't actually commit suicide. It's a lie. About 80% of people that talk about suicide attempt or commit suicide, about 80% of those people who talk about suicide attempt or commit suicide, a person who talks about suicide may be given a warning that he may try suicide. Don't say that because he has already talked about it, then he won't commit suicide. It's a lie. There is a high tendency, in fact, 80% tendency that they are going to commit suicide. So when somebody says something about suicide, they don't want to commit suicide, Don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. All several people want to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's a lie. Sometimes speaking about it is a very vital part. I remember when I was in this training, one of our profs that was also in class expressed his own experience, where she observed that this lady has changed completely. A lady that dresses well, makes her hair, good makeup, dress well, now becomes always lively, brings food to the office, has become someone who doesn't talk again, someone who's always on his chair, down, who's not friendly again, who's not smiling, who's always sad, doesn't make his hair again, doesn't dress up again, doesn't dress well again, doesn't make her hair, doesn't do anything to work, and doesn't bring food again, doesn't talk. And she observed this thing. Then one day she said, when the lady went to the restroom, she followed her. Then when the lady went to the restroom, when the lady came out of the restroom, she was looking at the mirror to dress well. Then she went to her and patted her on the back. And she asked her, so and so, what is the problem? You have changed. Then she said, no, ma, nothing, ma, nothing, ma, nothing, ma. And that's how they do. They will first tell you nothing, ma. Because they are that point where they sunk themselves. Ah, nothing, ma, nothing, ma. They said, no, something is wrong with you. Then she locked the door. She told somebody that everybody should go and use, anybody that is coming to go and use the other toilet, the other restroom. She said, something is wrong with you. Tell me, I'm here to help you. We will get out of this together. We are with you in our organization. Then the next thing that the lady did, do you know what she did next? Who can tell me, who can guess what she did? Just in the chat room. Who can guess what the lady did? The lady who was going through that tough time. Who can guess what she did? Thank you. Thank you. She busted into tears. That was that tears was a relief. Because she was ready to speak. She busted into tears immediately. She cried and she told so those other people not to come in so that she'll be able so that she'll be free to cry very well. She allowed her to cry. Just cry, 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 cry. She cried, 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 she cried. Just cry, don't worry. She gave her, when you are not all those kind of tears that comes with catarrh. She gave her a handkerchief. Just relieve yourself, because those burden are mental. They are mental burden. So that tears, if that tears didn't come, this lady maybe after some months will have committed suicide. Because imagine accumulating those things. She cried. Then she now related everything. All what she has been going, the trauma she has been going, the way her husband beats her husband this. She related everything. Then after that, they picked that and started helping her. They took her for counseling. That is where observation comes into play. If that lady that drives in Providence Bank was being observed, maybe that death would have been prevented. Then they took her gradually out of that hole. And she became well and happy, even though later she got divorced, but it was very smooth, very fine, and she's living happily. So, when people attempt suicide or talk about suicide, it doesn't mean that they really want to die. They need help. That is why you need to pay attention. A person who attempts suicide will not try it again. It's a lie. I've heard different stories of people who attempted suicide and pretended like they are now fine. They attempted it, they rescued them, then they said then after some months, after some weeks, they started playing like normal play, like, and everybody was happy. Like, thank God, oh, this guy is now friendly, is now playing. Not just wake up the next day and they find out that he has committed suicide in his room. Someone can come out of suicidal attempt or depression like that. It's not a joke. It needs gradual taking them away. If you see somebody who attended suicide or who is in the depression and tells you that he's fine now, it's a lie. He's only pretending so that he can finally take his life. You need to take them out gradually. Am I communicating? If you are with me, type yes in the chat room. If you are with me, type yes in the chat room. If you are with me, if you are flowing with me, type yes in the chat room. If you are flowing with me, type yes in the chat room. Thank you. Next one says, a suicidal person will commit the act if he talks about his suicidal feelings to another person. No, it's a myth. The fact is that people want to be heard. If you ask a suicidal person about his suicidal feeling, he will often feel relieved. If you feel it's like a vent for saying it out. That someone finally realizes that he is in emotional difficulty. He will not commit that act just because you asked about his suicidal feeling. He will say because you have asked about it and he has talked about it, then he's now going to die. No, it is not. Suicide is an impulsive act with no previous planning. It's a lie. People who want to commit suicide, they plan it. Or what do you say about somebody who leaves his house and went to Terminal Bridge and jump inside? You think the person didn't plan it? Who left the house to go and buy Gamalin 20, came back home and took it and drank it? They plan it carefully, sometimes for weeks. So understand these facts and take away the myth so that you're able to know how to properly address the issue of suicide. What are the psychosocial symptoms of potential suicide? What are they? Most people who commit suicide gives clue that they are experiencing serious difficulty. They give signs directly or indirectly from their changes. Some of these clues are related to human emotions and change in their life pattern. So observe your workers, observe your colleagues, someone who dresses well before, who's always active, always agile, now changes suddenly. Someone who doesn't drink now becomes someone who is drinking every time. It means something is happening. Many of these symptoms are caused by stress due to some current situations. What are those things that you need to look out for? As an individual, as a professional, you're talking about HSC every time, HSC, health, safety, and environment. Do you think health is only about medical health? Mental health, physical indicators that you need to know that somebody is going through some mental health condition. Number one, change in appearance. I've mentioned it before. Number two, change in appearance may indicate the person's mood and self-image. Neglect of hair, especially ladies. Start neglecting their hair. She doesn't dress well again. Everywhere is bushy. Just comb the hair. Someone that used to do braids, that used to do wig and everything, Brazilian hair, makeup, now changed completely. Then something is wrong. Lack of concern for dressing. Someone that dresses well, she's always preparing pay, now this preparing pay. And she just start dressing anyhow. I've seen a lady during the exam, then when we were in school, during the exam time, the lady from home wore 2 different slippers to school and didn't know until she got to school. And that was because of the stress of school, stress of work, reading for exam. Bodily movement slowed, decrease in gesture, stooped, and bent posture. Someone who is now always down. His shoulders always down like this, always looking down, always sad. There's a way you will know that someone is, even for those that knows how depression is, looking at their face, you know that they are depressed. There's a way the face changes, the cheek drops. Be observant. They are depressed move, facial expression, they feel blank. Someone who is still young, but looking like someone looking old because he doesn't take care of himself again, doesn't eat well again because of she's going through some mental illnesses, mental health condition, trauma, stress in his life, in her life. Feels low, sad, gloomy, express self-depreciation, Tearfulness and trembling. You need to be observant of wherever you are. Change in work habits. Lack of interest in work. The workplace is likely to change frequently without apparent reason. These are changes that may result in suicide tendencies. Inconsistent workplace. Marital problem, divorce, separation, debt, financial problems, social isolation, when people isolate them from themselves, lack of self-control. Childbearing problem is not funny at all. It's not a joke. Childbearing is not a joke. For women that have experienced it, we know that it's not a joke. For men that have seen their wives give birth in their presence, we know that it's not a joke. Childbearing problem can lead to depression. Difficulty with spouse. Loss in income. What are those things that you need to look out for again? Changes to usual pattern of behavior. Loss of interest in recreation or hobby. Someone who likes to go out on a Friday, someone who likes to be out, now becomes someone who is now drawing back and says that he doesn't want to go to work. He doesn't want to go out to enjoy. His hobbies, he loves to play tennis, he loves to hang around, he loves to play games, but he lost interest in all these things, then that is a pointer for you. The individual may avoid family and friends and may also have decreased sexual drive. There's lots of interest in people. Doesn't want to go out and see people again. Living within a tight budget. Difficulty with people at work. When a boss is becoming so tough that it's leading to hostility and making people to undergo some medical health condition, then you are knocking towards the door of suicide in your workplace. Lots of supportive friend and family ties. Homesickness. Difficulty in accepting authority. Lovers quarrel. Interpersonal problems. All these interpersonal problems are very, very key. We have people that have committed suicide because during the COVID era, some people committed suicide because of the COVID, because we were like when I was working in a company then, one of the top managers of the client is a foreign organization, I think it's a South African company. The man committed suicide. Why? Because he was diagnosed of COVID-19, he was treated, diagnosed again, he was treated, diagnosed again, and he got tired. And I think that affected all his internal organs. Then the man resulted into suicide. But do you know what he did? A day before, I think 2 days before, he went out to club, spent lavishly, took like 2 ladies, 3 ladies to the hotel, had fun. Then the second day or the third day, they said he has committed suicide. These are symptoms. Something that someone doesn't do now starts to do it suddenly. You need to pay attention. Interpersonal problems can also lead to suicide. What are the danger signs? What are the immediate danger signs of suicidal intent? Insomnia, lack of sleep. The person is unable to sleep well. Inability to concentrate at work. Loss of focus. The appetite is being lost. Social withdrawal. The person withdraws from his colleagues, from his friends, and staying in isolation. Poor personal hygiene, sloppiness, crying every time. These are symptoms. Feeling of worthlessness. One or more of these signs seen in a person may indicate an immediate problem. We call it clusters of symptoms. You can't pick one and say this is suicide. You can't just see somebody not sleeping well and say, because the person is not sleeping well, then you want to commit suicide. No. You call it clusters of symptoms. A combination of these symptoms will give you a direction about what this person might need or might be going through. What are the behavioral warnings? Planning his own funeral. Some people do this. They'll plan their own funeral after the death of a loved one. They'll plan their own funeral too. Suddenly resigning from clubs or church or mosques to which he belongs. They start withdrawing from clubs, from people. Crying for no other reason, for no reason. Then composing a suicide note. We know this very well. This happens most of the time. And most times, these notes are being seen after they have committed the suicide. Imagine someone going to the toilet in Providence Bank, a staff, then committing suicide and leaving a note. It means that he has planned it, that today I'll go to work, I'll write my suicide note, then I will go to the toilet, use the chemical, and drop the suicide note before I use the chemical. Those are suicide attempts. These are behavioral warnings. There are sometimes they are found days after the suicide has occurred. The strongest behavioral warning is attempted suicide. When someone attempted to commit suicide but did not die, this is the strongest warning that you need to take attention and do something about it. Take the person for counseling. Unexplained change from usual behavioral pattern. Unexplained changes from usual behavioral pattern. A non-drinker begins drinking to excess. Someone who doesn't drink before now start drinking to stupor. Sudden unexplained recovery from a severe depression. I told you that when someone has undergone severe depression, the person can't suddenly say that he's fine, that he has recovered. No, the person needs to be taken through psychological counseling gradually till the person is fine. Some persons who have decided to kill themselves may appear quite happy. Actually, they are not happy, but relieved because they have made the decision to kill themselves. Then what is mental health first aid? And this way we are going to end it for today. Mental health first aid. When organizations like yours, you adopt policies and implement policies and programs to address mental well-being issues at the workplace and the various factors that affect them, you have incurred 33%, 15% lower cost relating to mental health conditions. And those programs can be aided by mental health first aid. So when we're talking about mental health first aid is the help that you give to someone experiencing a mental health problem before professional help is obtained. From the word first aid, at least we know what first aid means. So mental health first aid. When somebody is experiencing a mental health problem and you give him some help before professional help comes into play, and it can be in two ways that I can mention the other time. They can be chronic or acute. Chronic is accumulation of stressors, challenges, problems, and has made the person to go to graduate to the stage of depression. Then you need to have a mental health first aid unit or department or committee that addresses, observes workers, and look at what could lead to suicidal attempt, and address the symptoms. It is more about recognizing the symptoms and signs and symptoms, preventing the escalation, reaching out to anyone showing symptoms and de-escalating someone in crisis, de-escalating them, helping them to relieve their stress. It can be sudden, like I said. Let's say someone that received the news that his son just died, or her son or her daughter just died, and she's right beside you in the workplace. How do you respond to such person? Those are what mental health first aid will do. It has to involve having a department, a committee, or a unit that addresses that. You call your attention to them. After doing your own part, call your attention to them to come and address it, to come and meet with the person, and how the person resume back to work. Because the person has to resume back to work, and you don't expect somebody that is going through such to be productive. So there needs to be a gradual resumption. There's a gradual taking of the person back to his normal work style via the mental health first aid department, or whatever you call it in your own workplace. There's a need for it to help address mental health issues, both for acute and chronic. So the purpose of mental health first aid is to preserve life where a person may be in danger to themselves and to others. Provide help to prevent a mental health problem from escalating to a serious issue. and promote recovery of mental health person and provide comfort to a person experiencing mental health distress. In mental health first aid, mental health conditions aren't diagnosed or treated. In first aid, the same way that in normal first aid, you don't treat, you don't diagnose. You only help to de-escalate, to prevent escalation of a particular injury or incident that has happened before professional help come into play. That is what you do in mental health first aid too. It can involve a department, a clinic, a unit in the workplace. You set them aside. Committee members, it can consist of people, volunteers from each department. You train them to observe their workforce, to observe their units, taking note of their behavioral changes. You need to build trust and confidentiality among these colleagues so that they're able to express themselves to you. Be close to them to get information about their mental health state and what part of their work is leading to this and how you can help on also restructure the workplace. Because when someone is going through mental health condition, it means that someone else in the workplace can also go through it. And also give advice to the management on best practice to address mental health challenges. Aside from the general purpose of mental health, it's also administered to those, it's also administered to different people. Also administered to those, few seconds please. It's also administered, is it moving please? It's also administered to newly married. When couples just get married, it's not always that easy because there are new changes, new things will come up. The stress of the marriage, coming back from marriage, you need them to be productive in order to help them to recover fast and get back to work. And if they are going through some challenges as a result of marriage, you can help them to address it quickly so that it won't affect workplace productivity, and they'll also be able to have a good work-life balance. Counseling them. A new mother, a mother who just gave birth and is returning back to work. The stress of childbirth, the stress of motherhood, it won't be the same. So there is a need to address the mental health aspect of all these particular stages. And that helps when you have such department in your workplace. Newly divorced, someone who just got divorced, you don't expect somebody to just come back and start being productive. They need to address being counseled and gradually taken back to their workplace to ensure productivity. Employee who just resumed from an accident, someone who had a serious accident and resumed back to work, the person also needs that mental health first aid, also need to be in that mental health first aid. Then, also, employee whose family member just passed away. Employee whose family member just passed away. That is also very required that such person is being gradually taken back to the workplace because it's a serious trauma. So the person cannot just resume work and just go to his desk. Yes, he will resume to his desk, but on a periodic basis, maybe they'll give him an appointment to meet with someone who is part of the committee to ask him about how he's doing, how is it going, to be sure that the person is mentally fit to be at work. Mental health is very, very important. Mental health requires continuous awareness. As part of the process to promote mental health first aid in the workplace, it's important to continuously create the awareness among others, verbally. Yes, this helps in building culture of consciousness, where people are mentally alert and achieving the goals of information. You will be able to get more information, building understanding and enable positive, effective response from people concerning their mental health. You need to create awareness about mental health. Method of creating continuous awareness might include trainings. Delivering trainings, you can call us to train your workforce. Attending seminars on mental health. Like, for example, we're having a seminar at LCCI. I'll also share the flyer. LCCI in, what's it called? In Lagos, yeah. It will also be hybrid, that is physical and virtual. And we're talking about so many things that has to do with mental health. Attend seminars, trainings. In your company, you can develop in-company newsletters about mental health. In your meetings, talk about mental health. Use signages around your workplace to address mental health issues too. Mental trauma. All these are very important to build a workplace of positive culture that takes care of not only their physical well-being, but also their mental well-being of their workers. Before we end it for today, let's do this role play. We want just 1 or 2 persons to respond to this. A colleague just received a call. A colleague. Sorry, it should be our husband. You are in Nigeria here, and you're in Africa. There is no, I should have changed it in a long time ago. I used to forget. A colleague just received a call on the demise of her husband or his wife. How will you respond to him at that point? Anybody, let us do this together. A colleague, I talk about chronic and acute. That is mental distress. It can be acute, immediate. A colleague of yours just received a call on the demise of her husband or his wife. How will you respond to him or her at that moment? Who is going to answer this? Anybody? Anyone that will give you a trial? Nobody is going to attack you here. Let us engage. Anyone, raise up your hand. Let us call you. Let us see. If you are in that position and someone is beside you in your workplace or anywhere and receive such negative news, what will you do at that point in time?
Hello.
Hello, engineer.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Wally, for the very informative training. So at that point in time, a colleague receiving a call of very sad news like this, first, of course, you have to be strong for that person. Strong for that person means that you hold the person, calm the person down, and then try to, assist the person on how to go, go back home. And that could be in the form of, first you take her phone, his phone, if his or her phone, if she's willing to do that, and reach out to 1 or 2 persons that she will, she will tell you, he or she will tell you can be of emotional support for her at that point in time, and also assist that person to get back home, meaning that you can follow that person home, because leaving that person to go back home alone, of course, anything can happen. If she's driving, you stop her from driving. That means you have to drive that person back home, and also stay with the person until you have enough support function to be with her before you leave. Thank you. Let me pause for that.
Wonderful, beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, sir. Engineer, I saw Engineer Mr. Joseph before I call on Mr. Benjamin. Mr. Joseph, let's hear you out.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Walu, for this awesome moment. I'm really, really blessed by the presentation. What I wanted to say is almost what the previous speaker have said, but at first, I think I would like to speak to her that it's not every information that you receive that you absorb immediately. It might still be a rumor. However, at that point in time, every action that can make me take over her phone and find a way to ensure that I escort her, and reaching out to someone to get the clarity of the information, and if there is a way of taking her out of the scene, if the information is actually true, taking her out of the scene, that is not taking her directly to the scene of the occurrence, with a gradual approach to ease, such that even if it is true, some certain hormones would have been how do I put it, rescued, not responding on the acute level before the reality will show up. So that's the approach I will use.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, sir. Then Mr. David Benjamin. Kindly unmute, sir. Mr. David Benjamin.
Hello, good evening. This is David Benjamin. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I've really benefited from this. Firstly, if there is a situation of such in my office, one major role that I will play is to be a comforter. I'll play the role of a comforter.
We can't hear you well, engineer, Mr. David Benjamin. I think your network. Can anyone hear me loud and clear?
Please, can you hear me?
All right. So,
can I speak on? Can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you now. Please, kindly go ahead. We can't hear you again.
Yes, I said.
Okay,
at that moment, as an HSC person, I will play the role. I'll play the role of a comforter, mentally and emotionally, and the person will be assisted on the job and off the job at that moment, because the person will need at least 2 persons or 1 person that's a close associate to that person in the office to commute with that person to the house or to wherever the incident has happened, to comfort the person in order to ensure that the effect of that news is minimized on her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Thank you. You've all spoken well. Now, we talk about problem-focused strategy and emotion-focused strategy. And that's what I'm going to handle today. Number 1. Okay, I think we have some comments. Okay. This is where emotional intelligence comes to play. Emotional, mental, and financial. Calm the person, show some empathy. I will reassure her. Beautiful, quick response by coming closer to her and showing empathy. Beautiful, wonderful responses so far. Thank you so much for your responses. Showing empathy with strong emotional connection to the occurrence at that particular point until he or she is calm. Beautiful. The first thing is to calm the person down. The first is to calm the person down. Very, very important. Allow the person to realize that he is still in existence. Because at that point in time, all the sense organs are somewhere else. And how do you do that? There is a way the body responds. There is an emotional response. There's a bodily response to emotions. For example, when most of us, I want to give us an example, a very generic example. When we go for interview, or when it's time for exam, you start having an increase in heartbeat. If it's few minutes to exam, everybody wants to urinate. Why? Because our muscles have compressed. So the bladder has compressed. And for that reason, we are pressed to urinate. For another reason, our body has compressed, our heartbeat starts to increase. We start to palpitate, increase in heartbeat. So now we need to control those emotional response, those bodily response. By doing what? We tell the person after sitting down to take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out, so that you'll be able to have clarity, because at that point, he's not having clarity. He wants to do 100 things at the same time. He wants to fly and lift and rescue the person that was called for. Calm down the person, tell him to breathe in, breathe out. Tell him to calm down, stay calm, everything is fine. Reassure her, hug her, or hug him at that point in time. Then let him sit down for some seconds. Then if there is water, give him or her a cup of water. Why? Because our lungs, or what do you call it? Is it the esophagus? It dries up. It dries up. There's a way our body responds. There's a way our body responds to stressors, to tension. Our muscles contract, our heartbeat increases, our throat and our tummy, it dries up. That is why they tell you to drink water to return it back to the normal state. Because the mind, what happened is that the brain has already gotten the signal that there is danger. Then that response goes to the body and the body reacts by contracting the muscle. Then the muscle contracts, the muscle contracts, the throat dries up, and the heartbeat starts to increase. Then you will now have to deliberately return it back by taking a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. Do it like that, taking water and tell the person to react, to relax, so that the body will now communicate back to the brain that this thing is calm because the person has reacted to it, and the brain will now tell the mind to calm down. So the person will now gain clarity at that point in time. So that is how to first address it. Then if you have a unit, then you call the attention of the boss or the head who is going to allocate someone to follow the person. And if the person wants to drive, don't allow the person to drive. You drive the person down. And from there, take the person and get the report back to the workplace, and there will be a proper follow-up and show of empathy. If that is why you need to have that department, so that instead of everybody going to go and greet him and taking an excuse, yeah, people can go, maybe close friend. Representative from the mental health first aid can represent the organization to go and greet such person. So it addresses a whole lot of things, and that is how you can address someone at that point in the point of de-escalating them. And that is where we are going to end today. A summary of what we discussed today. We discussed so many things today. We've discussed a whole lot. The key point is that suicide is defined as intentional taking of someone's life. A leading cause of suicide in the Western world. There is increase in suicide and there's no actual number. Suicidal behavior is usually broken down into suicidal threats, gestures, attempts, and actual suicide. And there are a lot of danger signs. Inability to concentrate, loss of appetite, social withdrawal, poor hygiene, poor personal, sloppiness, crying, feeling of worthlessness. One or more of these symptoms seen in a person may indicate an immediate problem. Mental health first aid is the help that you give to someone experiencing a mental health problem before professional help comes into play. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. We hope we've added value to you. We appreciate you for always being with us. And before we go to our question and answer session, let me quickly invite you. Everyone is invited to our mental well-being mini conference and book review. For everyone who has not seen my book, maybe I should do this. Okay, this is it. I think some have gotten this already. The workplace, managing your mental well-being at work. Yes, you can get this copy for yourself. I'll be inviting you to this event at LCCI. I think the price has been reviewed. I think the price has been reviewed to 20,000 naira. To everyone that wants to attend from here, from this seminar here, you'll be allowed. We have your attendance already automatically by Zoom, so we know those that attended now, that are here till now. So once you attend, you'll be getting this book for free. It's going to be an hybrid event, physical location LCCI Ikeja, and virtually via Zoom. You're going to be there, and you're going to be part of the session from morning till 3 o'clock. We'll be talking about so many topics. We're talking about so many topics. Languishing, very important topic that people don't actually talk about. Behavioral defense mechanisms. Burnout, depression, anger management, suicide, substance abuse, suicide, mental health first aid, relaxation and cognitive techniques for work-life balance, exercise and health, element of workplace psychological wellness, and a whole lot of topics to be discussed on this particular hostility and anger management. So many topics will be discussed that have to do with mental well-being of individuals and the workplace. If you are interested in joining us in becoming okay, Mr. Uboro Umana, okay, yes, you have bought the book already. And I hope you love the book. I hope you've read it. Not just buying, you must read it. So if you're interested in joining us physically or virtually, I understand that some of us are not in Nigeria. You can join us virtually. So you can relate with us virtually. If you are distant, like I said, it's also virtual. You can join us virtually. If you're interested in joining us on this seminar, kindly chat us up via this number 070-4549-7332. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Mr. Benjamin, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate this session. I just wanted to mention an experience in the workplace just for every one of us to learn. It has to do with today's session. It happened some years back. A contractor came into our premises to work, and the contractor had an accident while on the job. So as a result of that, we evacuated the contractor to a medical center, and an HSE person was asked to go along with the injured contractor in order to empathize with him, reassure the contractor, and comfort the contractor. At the end of the day, I discovered that mentally and emotionally, they were really happy. They really got excited. And I want to really narrow it with what you just taught us today, that in case you are somewhere and that a staff or a colleague had bad news, what are we supposed to do? So I really want to bring back that incident to marry it with what you just explained today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your wonderful feedback. Okay.
Oh, no, really. Perhaps it's a mistake.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Waliu, I'm here.
Okay, no problem, sir. So, we rest assured that the event is going to be a wonderful one, and it's limited. The physical attendance is limited because we are going to have just, I think, 50 space available, I think. So for physical attendance, just 50 people will be available to, but virtual can be as much as 100. We look forward to seeing everyone. We look forward to having you, and we believe that together we can have a wonderful section discussing about mental health as an individual, ourselves, and also as a workplace. You can also register your employees, some of your employees, to come to this training. It's very important. And we are going to issue certificates also for this wonderful training. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time. And I think it's a time well spent, and we hope that we've added value. See you once again some other time. I remain my humble self, Mr. Waliu Adegoke. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I'm enjoying the feedback. Inspiring and insightful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.